First, we want to have a couple ideas of understanding. The first one I want to talk about is if we have two numbers like 1 and 2. We can write these two numbers as a fraction of each other. For example, we can write 1 over 2. The top number we would say is the numerator. This one, the top one. It's always going to be the numerator. The bottom one we can say is the denominator. It's always going to be the bottom one. Numerator, denominator. Bottom, top. These are two special names for these. You could also take this fraction 1 over 2. This could also be written as 1 divided by 2. Which, if you take that, you equal 0.5. You always take the top one and divide it by the bottom number, and you'll get a decimal that way. Now, let's talk about whole numbers for a second. Whole numbers are like numbers you would call like counting numbers. Like, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. The dot 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 just means you can keep on counting to like whatever number you can count to, a million, trillion, whatever. Also, this includes 0. So whole numbers are like numbers that you usually count with, and 0. So it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. We could also write whole numbers as fractions. An example to this would be 2 over 1. Or we could say we'll take 1 and 3 and we'll make that into a fraction. We say 1 over 3. These are all whole numbers. We can also make them into fractions. As we continue with this, we can have a couple more rules. Any number over 1 can be written as a fraction, and any number over 1 will equal itself. Like, for example, 2 over 1 is 2. Another example would be 3 over 1. That would equal 3. Another example would be 4 over 1 would equal 4. You can do this with any whole number. So 100 over 1 would equal 100. Let's do another one. Another rule would be any number under 0. For example, 1 over 0. What does this equal? It always equals 0. So if you have a number, then under 0, it's always going to be 0, because you cannot divide by 0. Because this is like saying 1 divided by 0. That's 0. For another example would be 4 over 0. This would also be 0. Or 3 over 0. It's also equals 0. You can pick any number, say 25 over 0. This is 0. It's always going to stay the same, no matter what. Let's go over another definition. A fraction mixed with a whole number are called arithmetic numbers. So fractions mixed with whole numbers. These are called arithmetic numbers. This sign just means number. Would be 1/2, or I would say 3. So we know this is a fraction, that's a whole number. That's fine. This is all arithmetic numbers that you can think of. 4, 3, 7, 1, 5, 0. So that list can go on for a really long time. So you can think of any of those numbers, and they'd be arithmetic numbers. Whole numbers mixed with fractions. So let's go over another rule. Any number, add it. Any number, add it. This means addition. By 0 will equal the original number. For example, 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 0 is 3. Just remember all these rules that we're talking about. They will come in handy. Rules and definitions. Mostly the rules. Now let's talk about any number multiplied by 1 will equal the original number. So 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 1 is 5. Just remember these rules. We'll come back to them a little bit later. Another rule that you should know: any number divided by itself is equal to 1. So for example, 2 divided by 2 is 1, or 2 over 2. It's the same thing. This sign you can think of as a division. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just think of 2 over 2. That's a fraction. That's 1. Another one would be 3 over 3 is 1. Or 7 over 7 is 1. Or 125 over 125 is equal to 1. All these are going to come in handy, these rules. And this one that we're talking about here is going to come in handy the most. Is what we're going to talk about next.